Undoubtedly one of the most common and popular rounds in Escape from Tarkov, 7.62 by 51 NATO is an absolute monster. But with some of the recent changes to this caliber, a lot of people have been asking me to do a retest of how good this caliber is against some of the best armors and helmets in Tarkov. So today we're going to be diving into just that with some of the changes to the caliber recently. Before we get into the video here today, I do want to remind you I do stream on Twitch. The link for that will be featured down in the description below if you want to swing by, catch any of these videos being made live, or have any questions. We're going to be testing a wide variety of rounds here today, starting off with Ultra Nozzler, BPZ, TPZ, M80, M62, M61, and then last but not least, M993. We're obviously going to be testing all of these rounds against a wide variety of different types of armors, as well as some of the best visors in the game, so make sure to stick around for that. To start us off here today, we're going to be jumping straight into leg meta because, well, there's only one round worth using for leg meta, and that's going to be Ultra Nozzler, coming in at 107 flesh damage. You are going to see 5 hits to the leg, but with the recoil, a lot of these guns, I wouldn't say that's really good in terms of leg meta. If you guys want a more specific look at some of the best leg metas in the game, I do have a separate video, and I will link that up in the top right corner for you guys. All right, let's jump straight into armor testing, looking at BPZ with 31 pen and 88 damage. Look, that's a decent amount of flesh, but you're going to be noticing that pen is not too good. And you can actually see up against the level 3 armors, it doesn't matter. However, you're not really going to run into a lot of level 3 armor in your raids, especially with the way the wipes have been progressing. A lot of the time, the best that you're going to run into would probably be a level 4 armored rig, especially since a lot of people are running amazing amounts of gear. And that really starts to show the flaws after the level 4 armor, especially stepping up to level 5, even some of the lower tier ones like Korund. Now we can see a Korund taking up to 8 hits to bring down. And the story doesn't get any better with something like the 6B13M. And that's most importantly due to the fact that its material type is better. But honestly guys, when it comes down to it, just hope to God that you never run into someone with a level 6 armor like a Slick or a Hex when running BPZ. If we look at the total results here, we're going to see consistency in level 2 and 3. But realistically, 4 to 6 shots on the thorax isn't great for level 4, and it doesn't get any better at 5 or 6. Now, luckily, there's another cheap round here called TPZ, and this actually has a little bit more pen, but you lose a lot of flesh damage. But that extra bit of pen is actually really nice, especially up against the class 4 armors. So we jump directly into the class 4 armors just for the sake of consistency here. We did test some level 3s off video and was always a 2-hit. Across the board, we are going to see great consistency against level 4 armors, even some of the worst ones like the 6B3TM. And the story once again doesn't really get that much better against the level 5 armors. However, there is a slight performance advantage because of that pen. And really, when it comes in Tarkov, pen is king. And something like TPZ would definitely be the minimum round that I would recommend when getting into 7.6251, especially if you're a low level and don't have access to much more. But that really isn't the case when we look at the consistency between the two and then take the step towards M80. And I think M80 here is the real budget king. Coming in at 41 pen and 80 damage, you don't lose out on flesh damage, and you have 41 pen to work with some of the best and most common armors in Tarkov. What this will give us is 2-shot consistency on level 4 armor and down. This also calculates and translates across to level 5 armor, also giving us a lot more consistency here. Now this is really interesting when coming up against level 5 armors because that blunt damage of the M80 starts to punch through, especially the fact that it has so much of it. If we look at the level 5 armors, you will be noticing that the level 5s with better material type will take a couple more rounds. But the story remains the same when we look at stuff like level 6, where that consistency just simply isn't there. Across the board, however, we will have to be recommending M80 minimum. It just outclasses TPZ just so much more, and BPZ isn't really worth your time. I think the most important would be that 2-tap upgrade on the level 4, especially as a lot of the helmets in Tarkov are level 4 and up. Now that doesn't really mean all of the helmets. Interestingly enough, M62 actually got a recent nerf from 54 pen to 44 pen. Now M62 has 44 pen and 79 damage, giving it 3 more pen than M80, but 1 less damage. What this really means in a real world terminology is that when we're running up against class 4 and under, we'll still have that consistency. But when looking at lower tier level 5 stuff like the Korund and the Gazelle, we will see a little bit of a performance increase here, and especially becomes apparent against stuff like the CPC and the Killer Armors. This means M62 will give you slightly better performance for the price. I did want to point out, however, M62 is a tracer, so I don't know if this really affects you guys, but across the board, I saw a lot better results here, especially even level 6 armor. M62 seemed to be slightly better performing here, and a lot of the time when I was checking the armor, it wasn't completely zeroed, indicating that there was a chance for pen there at the lower durabilities, and not so much just blunt damage. And that M62 once again coming in at a rare chance to pen that level 6 armor in 4 shots, which is honestly pretty nutty if you look at the price of M62. Alright, last for the ammos here, M61. Now, I don't really know why this is worth testing, but with 64 pen and 70 damage, I mean, you can do the math. You know exactly what's about to happen with this round. And the truth is, M61 is nuts, guys. Like, seriously, this round is just completely busted. I really hope to see it a little bit rarer in the future, you know, so I'm not constantly freaking dying to it. But, you know, M61 is just time and time again consistent. Every class of armor, it just really doesn't matter. It just absolutely destroys anything and everyone. Now, 993 with 70 pen and slightly less flesh damage will give you the same consistency against armor. What's really important about 993 is not only is it just like the baller edition ammo, you know, the price, but it has a few other things going on with that round that we'll get into a little bit later. But you are going to see the same consistency with this round, pretty much going through everything and destroying anything in its way. As for helmet and visor testing, let's jump straight into BPZ. Now, once again, you get what you pay for, right? If you have a level 3 helmet and you're running BPZ, you will have a rare chance to pen level 4, as you saw with that ULAC. But the truth is, if you run up against a guy with an Alton, you're pretty much screwed. I mean, getting this many shots in the head is pretty unrealistic, and the same goes for stuff like the Vulcan or the Bastion with the Halo. I wanted to point out that TPZ, I mean, isn't that much better. With its amount of pen that it has, though, what I would like to point out that is, you know, most of the visors you run into this game are like the fast MT visors, and they're level 3. So realistically, if you are running TPZ and you aim for the head, you should have a good enough time if you get enough shots down range. But look, just hope you don't run into an Alton again, right? As for M80, I mean, M80 just definitely steps the ball up here. I mean, for a budget round, it is definitely insane and can bring down an Alton in as low as 2 shots, which is pretty nuts. Against the Bastion with Halo, 4 hits, which is pretty phenomenal. And against the Vulcan, I mean, that amazing amount of flesh damage, once again, shows the wonders of this round, especially when destroying armor. You are going to have consistency against level 3 visors. And, like, if you do run into level 4 helmets, it'll go through on the first shot. Or if you're very lucky, like you saw there with the BNTI, you can ricochet it. I am still working on a ricochet video, and you guys would obviously be interested in that. If you are, feel free to subscribe, guys. I am working on a video about helmets and how this works. But let's just say ricochet is really important. Once again, even if you have something like a Kaiman or a Cayman with a pleek and additional armor, it doesn't really matter, with a chance of M62 to actually one-shot a slap, which is pretty nuts. The M62, once again, is a little bit better against helmets and a little bit more consistent, especially up against the Alton. Now, we actually saw a 2-shot on the Alton at one stage during testing. Obviously, we went back and did this again, but that is pretty nuts. Now, M80 did not do this very often, so I would like to point out that M62, once again, is still good for the price, guys. It really is. Even if you bottom-loaded M62 and top-loaded M61. But what you do get with M61 is this, really. No helmet in the game stands a chance, which is just honestly nuts. And the same applies to M993 once again. It really just destroys anything in its path. Now, finally, to answer the question you didn't ask, what's the difference between M61 and M93? Why would you ever pay so much stupid money for M93? The real main difference here is the accuracy and obviously the muzzle velocity. Now, these are actually really important because muzzle velocity impacts your gun. And as you can see, I was firing from about 150 meters away here. And if we look at the spread, M61 on my left and M993, and you will be noticing that M993 is just the tiniest bit more gripped and is slightly higher than M61. And that's a real major thing when you're sniping, especially long distance. The main important factor, however, is that accuracy. It has a 5% accuracy buff, which means not only does it fly straighter, it actually improves the MOA of your gun, making it lower. Therefore, the possible range of impacts is actually smaller, which makes it really good for sniping, and the only reason I would really suggest it. Hey guys, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, feel free to subscribe and let me know in the comments down below what caliber you'd like to see next. I do actually read the comment section, and I obviously do like to appease you guys, so let me know. I do love hearing back from you. Thank you so much for watching to the very end, and as always, we'll see you on the next one.